Hello. My name's Dan Sanasuso. And I'm doing an incident report on a German steel mill breach that happened sometime last year. So, first thing is the reasons for interest in on this project, and I found a good article on it earlier in the year. Um, I can't remember if it was posted or how I came across it, but um, so this is only the second accredited report of physical damage stemming from a purely cyber attack. The only one since Stuxnet, which we all pretty much know what happened there. Um, but it's also only the fourth report ever of a specific attack targeting specifically industrial control systems instead of just information stealing or pictures of some celebrity or movies from Sony. But this one's also pretty unique because it could be potentially motivated by business, not necessarily just like a state sponsored attack or someone wanted to get into an individual's account or personal information or credit cards, but this could have been an attack stemming from a competitor that just wanted to stymie up a plant so they could take over some of their business for a while. And the last thing that was really cool about this, well, sort of cool, made it tough to do a presentation on, but we don't really know a lot about this attack. Reason being, there hasn't been a lot reported on it. Early or mid December to early January, there was a lot of reporting going on this attack, but it all pretty much stopped because everyone ran out of information. But we'll get to that in a minute. But the basics of who and what was targeted. All we know is that there was a German steel plant, which I assume is somewhere in Germany. But the German steel plant has this one type of furnace called a blast furnace, which is pictured here. Which I'm not going to get into how it works. But basically, there's iron poured into the top, heated from the bottom. They mix iron slag comes out the bottom. So on and so forth. But this is a really integrated, controlled process that, if not controlled properly, could cause severe damage to this plant, which they ended up happening when they couldn't control this thing. So that's all the who we know about. There hasn't been a specific company that's come out and said it was us, and no one's pointed the finger at a specific person who was attacked or the victim of this. So when were they attacked? We do know that the attack happened in 2014. This comes from the accredited source I was talking about earlier. I'd mentioned the German BSI. I can't pronounce that in German, but pretty much their Office for Information Security. Their IT security part of the government compiles this report every year, detailing all the attacks that they've been part of throughout the whole year, and what that means for the industry, what companies should do to react to this. But they do it on an anonymous basis, which could be seen in a multitude of ways that we'll also get into later. But so we're not sure whether that's good or bad on the BSI's part. So how they were attacked. One of the only key parts of this attack that we're actually sure about, and that were released. The way these hackers got in was a spear phishing attack. Not the email. The email on the right is not the one that was used. That was just an example of spear phishing, just in case anybody forgot what spear phishing and social engineering is all about. But basically, there was an email sent to one of the employees, or maybe all of the employees at this company, and someone clicked on it. Excuse me. And let someone into their networks with an unknown malware that was unspecified, but somehow they infiltrated their business side of this company's network. The way they got in the report, they said they showed an advanced knowledge of general IT security when attacking this company. And from there, in an undisclosed amount of time, they found a way to jump to the production network through an unknown interface, which we're not sure about, but I could only assume is a data recording or a data acquisition system that comes from the production side for someone like an engineer or a manager or billing or whoever to monitor the plant. Once they got to the production side of the network, they had a very specific path of components that they went after in a way that showed they had decent and great experience with the way that a steel mill itself is controlled and operated, which was another reason that this could have been very competitive in their motivations for this attack. If it was another steel mill company, then they could have been targeting a competitor, and they would have an in-depth knowledge of how something like this system would actually work. So after they were on the production side, they took out many individual components as opposed to just trying to collapse the whole system. So if you were a system manager, you might have seen a problem on your system and not necessarily seen all the other issues that were happening at the same time. But after a while, all those individual components then added up and compromised the whole blast furnace shutdown procedure that the company has, and left the blast furnace in an unknown state. The system didn't know what was going on inside the blast furnace, so none of their shutdown procedures actually applied, which then led to a catastrophic failure of the blast plant. Which again, we're not really sure of what that means, other than the furnace was destroyed to the point of it not being able to be operated on a normal basis. The German government in this incident, as I said, the BSI or their office was involved in the fact that this company actually reported the incident to them. It's important to point out that while we think this is only the second time that a cyber attack has actually damaged a physical system, that could not be true. It could have happened and someone didn't want to stand up and say, hey, we got attacked. Specifically in Germany, there's no law or anything that governs what private industry does or reports to the government in terms of a cyber attack. But like I said, this company, whoever they are, decided to actually self-report, which is good for the community as a whole, and like around the globe for industrial security. And the BSI does a good job, as I'm finding out, and we're seeing that they do take anonymity very seriously. That's actually a good sign, at least in the beginning, I think, for companies being able to report and not worried about their reputation being tarnished I don't want to work with that company, they got hacked, they might be a liability sort of thing. So originally when I started this, I thought, hey, maybe this is a cover-up sort of thing. Why don't they want people to know? Was this more serious than we think? But it also could just be the rights of the company here, that they didn't want any of their story told, other than the importance of, hey, this happened, this is how they did it. You should really look out for all these lessons we learned from it. So still today, I mean, this is only a couple months old, so maybe we find out more, but we don't know the general who or where or when or why, or the exact when or the exact why. But maybe we'll get more of those details later. So the most important part are, what are these lessons we learned from this attack, which is the basis of the whole BSI report. So this attack obviously stemmed from an outside source that used the spear phishing and social engineering to target specific employee emails. The office and production networks were apparently not as separate as the company had thought, since someone was able to bridge these networks with their malware or their techniques and able to jump over to their production side. Now, the first knee-jerk reaction would say we need an air gap between these two networks, which I would be not in disagreement with. However, this day and age with business, that's just not that reasonable or feasible to expect. Everyone needs information. Everyone wants it 5 minutes ago. And to not be able to share that information willingly with somebody that you might think critically needs that information is just a little unrealistic, in my opinion. But that being said, there has to be something closer to the air gap, as opposed to maybe a medium of completely integrated versus the air gap, where this network has to be way more secure, where you're monitoring all the information that's going back and forth between the two networks, and maybe more specifically what's going onto the production network as opposed to what's coming off. I mean, a first knee jerk reaction again would be a data diode, but with with the way internet protocols are now, data diodes are pretty susceptible to also being corrupted. But yeah, there just has to be more monitoring of this company's specific network and networks as a whole for what's going on to your production side of your network, and also just basically realizing that anyone's a target now. This is a purely business sector, not a plant for enriching uranium where someone thinks that you'd be causing a lot of danger, but anybody's a target now. So, the second lesson learned that I wanted to get into with this was general awareness of a system as a whole versus you just being a system manager of just your equipment. So this attack took place over a period of time. This wasn't, they got into the email, there wasn't a spear phishing attack and the next day this plant was shut down. This attack, they could trace, they didn't tell us the exact period of time, but there were so many independent systems faulted or having errors that if all the system managers or a plant manager or some system had noticed that there actually was an unusual amount of failures on this system as a whole, they would have seen or hopefully noticed that there was a bigger problem with the system, that maybe there was something causing all these problems as opposed to them just coincidentally all happening at the same time. But not until the catastrophic failure or the uncontrolled shutdown of the blast furnace did anyone look at the rest of the system as a whole and notice that, oh, all these things might be related. So really there has to be a more due diligence on the overall system health of a plant or anywhere and any type of industrial control system, as opposed to maybe just getting like pigeonholed into, oh, well, my pump's working, or oh, my cooling system is working. Just because if there was a little bit more teamwork, they might have noticed the problem going on before it led to the catastrophic failure. Yeah, they were still infiltrated. Yeah, someone still might have had control of their system for a while, but maybe they could have stopped the blast furnace from going down. So the other thing we needed to look at for this is that sharing these type of events helps the overall security community. While this event is still shrouded in the BSI anonymity process and secrets, and we all want more information, this could help other companies self-report and feel more comfortable self-reporting these types of events. I'd really hope that if the reason somebody didn't want to support it was, hey, we're going to look bad, this would help. But I'd also hope that companies could stand up from a less prideful perspective and say, hey, we need to help everybody else out here. We were attacked. I don't want somebody else being attacked. And hopefully it has a trickle-down effect with these guys being the first to self-report of a physical attack since Stuxnet. And really it just helps the cyber community aware of techniques used and who the targets are. Because I'm not sure that before this, any steel mill would have thought, hey, someone's going to try to cyber attack me and take down my plant. But, hey, it is a business. Who knows who has who working for them to do whatever they need to get a competitive advantage out there. But it's good to just know that anybody is pretty much a target, and hopefully everyone takes note from this attack. So the main takeaway should be is that no one is actually beyond targeting, and anybody could be a target, which means you need to make sure your system is safe as possible, and everyone has to have a plan, regardless of whether you're a critical system or not. Everyone needs to have a plan on what would happen if somebody got into my network. Where could they go? Where could they come from to get in? What do they actually have control of? And is there anything I can take off of that network to make it as islanded as possible to still be able to do my day-to-day functions and limit someone's maneuverability to the rest of the network? Because you don't really want to underestimate the ability of somebody with a computer. Good or bad, people are very good at getting into systems. A lot of people understand a lot of networks better than people that put them together. So we need to make sure that we're ready for, once they get in, where are they able to go. And we need to keep reporting these events because, like I said, it's important for the community as a whole to understand the risks that they're facing and who out there might be targeting them. And that being said, we need to keep looking ahead at the next type of attacks if we can start seeing a pattern of techniques and how these attacks are evolving to things such as Equation Drugger, Grayfish, or you know different malware or flashing of firmware, like those two examples are. But while it's tough to look ahead to the future, no one knows what that attack is. If we don't keep reporting these events, we're never going to be able to get ahead, and we need a lot of smart people to start looking at what different ways around networks could be protected. So these are my three sources. I'd recommend reading the article there at the bottom from Wired.com. They give a great summary of the whole event, and the Drago Security blog that by Robert Emily is actually one of their co-founders. Those two articles right there would sum up everything. And if you wanted to look at a little bit more detail, the first source is good, but you'll probably get the most out of the third and second if anyone cares to read any more about this. And obviously, my email's on the class list. If anybody wants any more information, feel free to drop me an email, or just drop something on Piazza. All right. Well, thanks for listening.